We are live in the Country Club. It is Country Club Live time. Today on the channel, we have Mr. Tom Jackson, also known as Filament Frenzy. And here for your pleasure is Mr. Tom himself. He's going to introduce himself and just say hello, and then we'll get right into the chat with me and him. Here he is.
Shh. No shouting. You'll scare the filament. Hi, I'm Tom. I'm Filament Frenzy. I'm from the UK, at Filament Frenzy on the Twitters. I'm honoured to be here. It's my first live stream, so I'll turn back to Walter as fast as possible.
Well, Tom, you know, we talked a little bit. There's no sense in being nervous. I mean, it's people that you know. It's Carl Brown from Naked Designs. Fer Jerez is in here. Tell him hey, because you do the Wavy Wednesday, and now we're called out today. The
Wavy Master.
Yeah, right. So it's people that you see all the time in the chat, and I know that you're face to face with them now, or they're face to face with you. You can't really see them, but let's get started, okay? And we talked about it earlier. You sell fireworks, consumer fireworks for a living. That's your job. People wonder a lot. They're like, "What do you do for a living?"
Yeah, I'm a pyrotechnician is the trade. We sell retail fireworks to regular consumers. We do professional firework displays because the laws in the UK, obviously, you can let fireworks off all year round, every day of the year. You can also buy them. 3D printing is just a hobby. And yeah, fireworks I love fireworks. It's the deepest passion that I've got. It literally is lighting the sky up. The sky's the limit when they say that saying that with the fireworks, the sky literally is the limit.
Well, you know, I didn't tell you this beforehand, but I did want to talk to you about it because that's probably my longest lived passion is fireworks. I used to create my own. I've made my own gunpowder. I've made my own stars. I've made my own cases. I've made my own mortars. I've done all of that. Got my pyrotechnics license quite a few years ago. I love lighting the sky up. And it helps that my wife's birthday is July 5th, which is the day after our Independence Day. So perfect. We can do fireworks like crazy for her birthday.
Yeah, we do. We sell a lot of 4th of July fireworks. Not as many for as we do bonfire night, but 4th of July it's quite an exciting time, and especially now I use words such as dude naturally since being interacting with like the US on Twitter and so on. It's become natural to use American slang terms just in normal life.
Right. All right, so let's get started into the 3D stuff of this, because I know people are interested in you, but they're interested in pretty much what you print. But let's before we get there, let's go back. How long have you been 3D printing?
Just over 2 years.
Just over 2 years.
2.5, probably two and a half years.
2.5 years. So a lot of us, me included, been about a year. All right, we got an echo, Tom. Let me turn my speakers down. There we go. That's a little better. All right, so most of us been doing it a year and a half. Some of us a lot longer, some of us some less. But you took to, when did you start noticing that you like to dial in your 3D printers? After you started printing, because everybody starts out pretty much the same. They just print and they're like, oh, that's amazing. But when did you say, okay, I think I can do better? When did you start doing that?
Well, my first printer was a XYZ Davinci Pro. So it was open source, as in open filament, as in you could use any filament that you wanted, proprietary or not. But it was closed source, as in the fact that you could use Simplify 3D, but I didn't have at that point. I used XYZ Slicer. Now, the printer itself, for me, it was a wrong decision sort of to make. It was a wrong printer. So after I realized that was the wrong way to go, I bought a CR10. And when I bought CR10, I bought Simplify 3D. And not only the software, but the printer itself was a whole different world to where I'd come from for the last, say, 3 or 4 months. And in trying to make the software work, as in downloading the standard profile and then trying to roll with it, I realized that the prints that I was trying to get away from, they were worse now. And then ever since that day, the way I did it with the CR10 was I downloaded a profile that I'd seen results from other people that looked better than mine. And then I just started from there, and just bit by bit, I built it up. At that point, I didn't really have a knowledge of what all the settings did, as in the functionalities. I knew that I could click the button, but I didn't know what that button did. So it was more about changing and playing. And now that I fully understand, as in when I click that button or I select that option or that sort of distance, what it's going to do and how it's going to affect it, now it makes the process a lot simpler and a lot faster. Whereas before, it was just a lot of it was just trial and error. Try it. If it don't work, try again. Unclock nozzle. Go again. Go again. Go again.
I hear you. I hear you. So you got the XYZ Davinci, and then you've got CR10. But you've got, how many printers do you actually have now currently?
Oof. That's a difficult question to answer live. Is that, Walter? I've got 10.
10
we'll go with 10. 10 that run.
10 that run. Okay. So now, have you done this on all of your printers? Have you sit down and tried to get a profile so that when you go print, it's the best that that printer can do?
It's the best that I feel I can achieve, yeah. And like when I build a profile that I put out, it's difficult because, like, say, take my MK3, I have like, I don't know, 40 profiles for each different material, whether it be pigment choice within that material or whether it be a different type of PLA. So I'll put all of those settings together from those different filaments, and then I'll combine them into one, and then I'll test that for, say, 300 or 400 hours, so that you can put a profile out there that it won't be the best print you've ever seen in your life because of your machine. You've got to be very machine specific. Like, for instance, supports. Like, my supports are tuned per machine. So I have 2 Ender 3s, and the support settings, as in the separation distance, is completely different for both machines. So I actually have 2 profiles, even though I'm printing the same thing, just because of slight variations in the printer. So if you take the profile that I put out and then you tweak settings like the retractions and so on, they'll all be fine. They'll all work for most PLAs. And say if it's a PETG file, for most PETGs, you just have to adjust your temperatures. But once you tweak your supports, then you're laughing.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Okay. So when you get a new printer, just brand new out of the box, you've never had one like it before, what is your baseline profile? When you load a profile to start with, what is your baseline?
Well, if it's a Bowden, then I'll usually start with my CR10 profile at half retraction. If it's a direct drive machine, then I'll take my MK2 profile, and again I'll start there and I'll build up, and I know that whatever's in that profile is not going to damage that machine, if that makes sense. For instance, I'm not using a CR10 profile to try and dial in a Prusa and starting with retractions at 6, so it just gives 6 mil, so it'll just give you clogs all day long. So as long as you learn that sort of area. But my biggest advice to anybody is that to take a profile, whether it be for Slick 3R or Slicer or Simplify 3D or whatever your chosen slicer is try and find a profile out there that you've seen that gets okay results, and then build from that yourself. There's no point. Everybody can start from the beginning and try and build it up from the start, but there's no point doing that. There's enough profiles out there now for enough of these sort of, I won't say mainstream machines, but these higher popular machines. There's enough profiles to be able to pick up and run with stuff and make it your own, because the printer is your own. The printer is very specific.
Right. Well, and that's true. I mean, your MK3 profile, that the Kuntry MK3 profile that you sent me, I had to do a little tweaking on it because my MK3 is a little different than your MK3.
Yeah, exactly.
Every one of them, the hardware is different. It doesn't matter if it's the same hardware or not.
Mm.
You know,
but
so
like you notice things. I notice things with people more. Like again, supports is a big thing. Say if on my profile I have a certain separation distance. If your Z height, your first layer height, slightly closer or slightly further away than mine, then that separation distance will be affected in the supports, because obviously you're closer than what you need to be. So once you tweak those distances and certain settings, it's usually custom wipe as well. That's normally the main one, custom wipe. I say it all the time: custom wipe, custom wipe, custom wipe.
Yeah. Well, Carl's already asked, do you have any Davinci profiles that you'll share? Because he's the Davinci master.
I've got a Davinci. I've got a simplified 3D profile for a Davinci Pro. That did okay. And I've got one for a junior, which is Junior Pro. That were like a third printer. I got that just as a sort of something that can just print things without having to worry about it. It did its job. It's got a few thousand hours on it. I don't really use it anymore. But I keep it so that I look, and every time I get an issue like a jam or a clog, I look down at that printer and I remember sort of how bad things could be. So just get on with it.
Well, I tell you, Tom, there is a printer I need you to go buy and do a profile for, and it's the Monoprice Mini Delta. It's like this tall and this big around. It's a little bitty printer. I mean, it shouldn't take you no more than 100 hours or so to get the profile right.
Yeah, I've only got one Delta, and I got it for my birthday. My wife Louise bought me it, and she took advice from 3D Maker Noob and Spanner Hands, and they were both like, he's got to have a Delta. So they got me an Anycubic Delta, and the prints off that thing in stock format, it's fantastic. Honestly, for the money, it's as good as the Ender 3, and it's all about with that machine just dialing it in so you can print functional parts. But once it's there, it's a banging machine. It's fascinating to watch. It really is.
Cool. Now, you do all of your profiles in Simplify 3D. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I mean, everybody's asking for Cura, but you can basically load up your profile into Simplify, or go in and get the settings out of it to put into Cura. There really needs to be something that will read the Cura profile and write out a Simplify 3D profile and write out a Cura profile. I could write that software. I think.
The difficult thing is that, for instance, like I'm working on a Cura profile for the CR10 just because that's the one that I get asked for the most for it. So I'm willing to put the time in on that machine and then hopefully get good results and go from there with it. But one thing I have learned is going from my CR10 profile, what I've learned there, putting those settings into Cura, it don't relate whatsoever. It does not. It doesn't. They don't mesh together. They don't work the same way. So that once you put the details in, like for instance, retraction, I run retraction a lot lower in Cura than what I do in Simplify 3D. And again, extrusion, the way it controls the extrusion is completely different, even though you would think it'd be the same, with the same sort of value as in how much plastic you want to push out. But it's not. It's definitely not, because, well, I can see it's not from using both.
Right. And Chris from Practical Printing says you can't do a direct translate because of the way the slicers do the math is different. And you can tell that just by loading a model into Cura and a model into Simplify 3D and slicing and then printing, and they'll turn out differently because they're just different slicers. So why Simplify 3D? Why did you go with Simplify 3D? It's $150 and there were free choices out there.
Because when I first got it, the option before that was I was getting in the XYZ slicer software, which is very basic. If I'm honest with you, I wasn't looking for anything more than that. The results that it gave were okay. You didn't really understand what it did. It just sort of did it for you, if that makes sense. So then when I got the CR10, I looked around and I looked at software, and Simplify 3D, just from the user interface, it were really attractive, the way that the previews looked, the way that customizable supports, all this sort of thing. Because again, when I first purchased it, I didn't really understand 3D printing that much, to be honest with you. That sort of came as I learned. It was a passion to be able to make the prints nice that sort of makes me not be bothered by failing and just sort of keep pushing and keep going, because it's what I want to do.
Right. So when you start on a profile, how many hours do you put into one before really? I mean, I'm not going to say till it's perfected, because you can tweak one every day for the rest of your life and it not be perfect. But just say your Ender 3 profile, when you got the Ender 3, how many hours would you say that you put in from a base CR10 that you say you started with to get it to where the Ender 3 is printing to Tom Jackson's standard?
About 350 hours on the first Ender 3 from the CR10 profile into that. And then I also learned some things from the Ender 3 that I then cross-backed into the CR10 and checked that with that machine. And again, so I changed that and uploaded that one as well. But yeah, about 350 hours. And then the one that I put out, again, I tested on my other Ender 3. I think I did another 100, 150 hours on the same profile, which is where That print that you saw recently, this one, that was the last print off of the second Ender 3. So that was testing the same settings, other than obviously dialing in the supports, which were under the chin and so on. That was just to see if it'd work and sort of translate across, and it does. So I'm quite happy with that, and that's why I tweeted it out there.
Well, that's awesome. So you've been doing this hobby for 2 years, and now, you get some Filamentum. People start sending you filament because on Twitter they see your prints, and they want to see your prints with their filament.
Yeah.
Because that's just good advertisement. To show these gorgeous prints in their filament is just fantastic marketing for them. That, a few rolls of filament isn't much to pay you to market for them. So how has that changed over, say, the last 6 months in Twitter? How much has that changed what you get from companies and stuff of that nature?
Well, where it concerns Filamentum, they're different. The relationship with Filamentum started from week one. I were on Facebook. I'd never been on Twitter before. I run a Facebook group. The reason being is because there's a lot of Facebook groups out there that sort of provide a lot of noob hate. Now, for me, if a guy wants to know how to unclog his nozzle, I'll happily drop a link to a nozzle uncleaning video 100 times a day. If it gets them up and running, there's no reason for like answers such as Google this, Google that. So I started a Facebook group, my own 3D printing show and tell. And it's orientated, no advertising, and it's designed that all you make is just share what you do and share, learn and grow. And then I met Ian Blinkhorn, IR Blinks on Twitters. I met him via that Facebook page because we run it together. And he said, you should really come to Twitter, Tom. You should come and have a look what's going down over here. So I thought, right, let's do it. So Filament Frenzy were born. I came to Twitter and I tweeted a few tweets, and I'd actually bought some Filamentum from Spanner Hands because Spanner Hands been in Wales, and at that time he stocked Filamentum. So I had that material. So I printed some prints on one of my prints. I can't remember which it was now. It'll have been a CR10. And they sent me a message and they said, is it okay if we use your pictures and this, that, and other? So I said, that's absolutely fine. And we'd like to send you a couple of rolls of filament if you'd like to. And as it happens, they were doing sort of a release at that time of the Vertigo Galaxy. So when the roll came, I actually got the roll like 2 days before it actually physically came out. So I did some prints in it and I went from there. Now that sort of really helped sort of build my profile, and I print a lot with Filamentum. Now, a lot of people think, oh, they just send boxes at a time. It's not like that. Majority of the filament that I have from Filamentum is from my own money. They'll send me stuff to print with that's like not released, like the CPs that you've seen released. I printed with all of those before they came out. The payment for that is the roll of filament that I get, because again, this is a hobby. So for me, it's not about any sort of payment changing hands or doing it for them. I'm excited to try that filament. So I'll test it to a point where it's fully tested and I'm okay to say that, yeah, I think it's a good thing. And then obviously there might be 100, 120 grams left on roll, and then we go to town and do what we can do with that. But until about 600-700 Twitter followers, there was only Filamentum and Spanner Hands that sort of interacted with me in that way, where they would send me the odd thing sort of here and there. Obviously it had a benefit for them as well as it did for me. And then once I got to the sort of 600, 700 mark, it sort of changed. It became sort of once or twice a week I'll get contacted to try filaments or whether I want to use such and such. And I've only had one printer company contact me, and that's TiVo. TiVo is sending me a flash to print with. And I feel quite proud about that. I know there's a lot to be said about TiVo, GPL compliance, and there's a lot to be said about a lot of companies. But again, they've seen something that they've liked and they've reached out to me. So for me, I kind of take pride in that. TiVo it lands tomorrow, by the way. Cool. So yeah, so and that's the first sort of machine that I've been offered. And again, I told TiVo when they offered me this printer, I don't do reviews. My intentions isn't to do YouTube reviews. If you want to see a printer review, then go see Joe at 3D Maker Noob, because in my opinion, he tests a printer inside out and then tells you what it's all about, regardless of whether it's bad or not. He'll tell you, and I respect that.
Right.
So printer reviews it's not my thing. I'm not really, this is a big thing, I'm not really an on-camera public speaking kind of guy. So I plan to sort of video and share the process and share how I do things and upload some YouTube videos. And because when I watch people like yourself and 3D Maker Noob, Joe Telling, the Broken Nerd, Uncle Jesse, when I see all of these people, and then and I see people on Twitter that do really amazing things, and I've got more Twitter followers than them, sometimes I feel a bit embarrassed because they have these, in my opinion, they have these followers because like they have the YouTube, they have this, and they do great things, and I feel like I want to have a YouTube, and I feel like I should have a YouTube. I just wish I'd done it sooner. Not wrong.
Well, let me say this. I mean, yeah, Joel and 3D Maker Noob, myself, and I don't get to be included in that group of guys. Tom Sandlater, they do lots and lots. I mean, Chris from Practical Printing in here, lots of tutorials, lots of things for the YouTube community. But dude, none of them lays down filament like the Filament Frenzy. None of them. I have never seen
probably because I'm not busy making videos.
Well, that's true. I mean, you're busy printing, but I'm looking at the Elder Lighthouse right there, just with my tongue on the floor, going, please let mine print that good. You know, I mean, it's gorgeous, Tom. I mean, it's just that way. Look at the MakerBot back there, the robot guy. I mean, I'm looking at that faceplate, and I know it's from a distance, and I can see it, but it's pristine. You lay pristine layers of filament down. That, yes, I know about your lions, man.
That's one of my favorite ones.
They're gorgeous, man. But that is what all of us, Joel Telling, 3D Maker Noob, all of us aspire to doing. That's what we aspire to do, is lay down plastic in layers that when you look at it, you go, that is gorgeous. That's all we want. And you do it seemingly on a daily basis, okay? And I know that your machines are just like my machines. You hit print sometimes and it won't stick to the bed. It just doesn't work right. Of course, we don't see all of that, which is cool. We don't need to see all of that. We know that happens. But we love seeing, and all of this love that you see, well, you can't see it, but in this chat room right now, somebody said it, there's a lot of Tom love in here right now. But all of this is because we aspire to print that well when they're printing good. You know? There you go. Chris just says it right here. I'll build beautiful machines and I'll dial in the hardware, but it takes magicians like Tom to really make them sing. And that's the truth. You put the time in, where I go, I don't have any stringing on this benchy. I'm good. That's good enough. And I print from there.
But a lot
you
for
don't.
me, like,
you go, you
I'm
know,
not
you go ahead.
I'm not a hardware guy, so like to tune in hardware and stuff for me, honestly, it's an absolute pain in the butt because it's not my thing. Like, my strong point is if you put me in another slicer, then yeah, probably I might be able to get there eventually. But Simplify 3D is my biggest weapon. It's not, a lot of it is time and effort, but that software is powerful. And for me, I'll be honest here, I see a lot of issues and bugs that people talk about online, like profile imports and this sort of thing. And that software has empowered me from day one to do everything that I do, and I enjoy that process and that software as much as I do the plastic and the prints themselves, because I take a lot from actually printing something rather than the finished piece. So that's why I'm happy sort of to give it away. If you want, you're welcome. But for me, the bigger thing is like the community. As I say, when I came to Twitter, I'd never experienced this, and you guys are all inspiring. Like what you guys can do when you make videos and put out tweets and stuff like that is you can inspire people, and I felt inspired to want to do the same thing. I want to help people. I want to print, and I want to be here, and I want to be a stand-up member of the community. But I want to be different. I want to stand out for helping people, and if people don't understand something, I'm always willing to help. If I've got the time and I'm there, you can count on me, because without sort of the community, I've just crossed 1,000 followers on Twitter today, which to me means everything. And that means there's 1,000 people there that follow me that didn't follow me a year ago. and to have that sort of circle around you is amazing, and everybody's interactive, and Twitter is a good place. And the way that you can have a disagreement with somebody, you can completely disagree, and the next day you've not even fell out, you're just back interacting about something different because you just disagree. That's all. I just think the more that we stand together, the further we'll get.
Yeah. Well, and you know, we say that every interview. We talk about the community, because without the community, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. Nobody would be watching this. We'd all be stuck in our own rooms, 3D printing and not talking to anybody. But the community is fantastic. When you have a problem, normally it doesn't take very long before somebody has had that problem and they go, oh, this is what you do to fix it.
Yeah.
Most people look to you when it comes to profile fixing. I mean, that's you started Wavy Wednesday as a way just to get it out there. Is that right? I mean, how did that come about?
Wavy Wednesday came about as in Fernando. I got sent a filament by Filamentum, concrete grey. It were unreleased, and they asked me to print some sort of organic models in it. So Fernando at that time was making a wavy bowl, and it was just one wavy bowl, which is the original wavy, which is here. This is in the new Starlight. That bowl, I used that bowl and printed it. And then maybe a month, 2 months later, after that had sort of all gone, Fernando came up with a lot more waves. Like, it was a wave of waves.
Yeah.
To the point where he split them up into 3 categories. You had wavy bowls, wavy pen pots, and wavy cups, just to make it sort of trickle down better. So we're in a group chat, spaghetti printing for self-drilled nozzles and so on. And Fernando just put it out there. He said he'd like to release the waves, and what sort of thing could we do? So I just threw out, let's do it on a day, Wavy Wednesday, which is my day off. And we just all ran with it from there. And it's basically, it's a community thing. It's Fernando's done, as in designing new waves for now. He's moving on to other things. And now it's sort of just to the community just to turn their hand to it and just run, so that we all print something on the same day, even if it's not wavy. Honestly, if it's not wavy, hashtag Wavy Wednesday and it'll be included. It's just about sharing the same thing together and all having that common goal on that same day where we can all come together and do it, rather than it sort of being a bit more diluted like it would be normally, because not everyone would see it, whereas now everyone anticipates Wavy Wednesday and everyone gets excited for it. So for me, I feel like that were a job well done for everybody involved, because when you see someone like Joe Telly make a video of it, you see someone like 3D Maker who like take it to another level with just using infill to do it, that sort of thing, you realize that it's something special then, and everybody's part of it. Everybody's responsible. If you tweet a Wavy Wednesday tweet, you're responsible for Wavy Wednesday. You're part of it, and that's just the way it goes. Apparently, it were about haircuts before, about wavy haircuts.
Well, that won't work for my head, so they can't see me, but you can. You talking about community, it's like was it last night? Yeah, last night when I was trying to get my 2.5 upgrade running, 3D Gusner stayed on here until it was almost 3 in the morning for him. Okay. And he had to get up and go to work today. So that's community. That's trying to help somebody. And my appreciation of this community goes beyond anything I could say. So let's move on. All right. So we did Wavy Wednesday. Your prints are fantastic. Everybody knows it. And y'all start getting your questions ready, by the way. We're going to inundate Tom here in just a minute. And don't say, what is the retraction on an Ender 3 if the temperature is 50 degrees outside? We're not going to be answering those type of questions.
What does PLA mean?
Yeah, right. What is it? Polylactic acid or something like that. Anyway, so power's flashing, Tom. Hopefully I won't lose you. Anyway, we need to move on. So you print, and I see lots of your prints, but you give stuff away. You have bad prints. Oh, stop it.
It's a hat, is that one?
That's a hat. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's it. But so where do you go from here? Because like me, I love building machines. I love tinkering with the machines themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't wait to get the TiVo working. I can't wait to get this one working. But once I get them working, I need something else to tinker with. So what is your tinker? What is your tinker? Is it the slicing and getting it to do what you want? Is that what you get out of 3D printing?
Yeah, exactly that. I enjoy the process. I don't mind building printers like the MK3 and so on. I wouldn't say I enjoyed it, but I don't mind it. But to dial in a profile and sort of tweak settings, that's sort of, I enjoy that. Now, I don't really have a goal. When I set out to do 3D printing, I didn't buy a 3D printer and think, I've got a goal, I'm going to take over the world. I've never had a goal here. Like I say, my goal is to share, learn, and grow. And by doing that, and again, it's like a natural progression. I went from no social media, printing wise, to Facebook, to my own Facebook group, to Twitter, to Filamentum, to all different companies contacting me. It's all a natural progression. So I'm just sort of riding the wave, and I'm willing to do most things if it don't affect me time wise, and it doesn't stop me doing anything that needs to be done family wise and work wise and so on. Then I'm in for it. If someone wants to send me a printer and me dial a profile in for it and send them the profile and the printer back, then send me it.
Well, now you open yourself up, because shipping is expensive across that pond. Very expensive.
Just a little bit.
Chris said you're riding that wavy Wednesday wave.
I feel a bit of pressure as well with Wavy Wednesday. Like as soon as Wednesday finishes, like normally around about this time, I'm normally thinking, what am I going to do now? What non-vase am I going to print? Because like Poke on Nerd Space on Twitter, he says stuff like, "Oh, it's not a vase," and then I feel pressured. I feel pressured to print not a vase, because I don't just print vases. There's a lot of stuff like I spend a lot of time printing with stuff that I can't share yet. Like the CPE that came out, I was actually like 3 months in on that. So I'd printed the stuff 3 months ago. So sometimes it's difficult to have the enthusiasm when you're printing something and you can't really share it with anybody other than people that know about it and they're already on with it. So again, that's like the community aspect. When I tweet something that I've worked on 6 months ago that's now just been released, and then I can show that print, when that community shows that enthusiasm, that lights that fire again in that material and that passion, and it takes you back to where you were 6 months ago. I love that.
Cool, man. Well, we've got questions coming in, but there's two guys in here, and I know I'm going to murder their names, because in America it would be Daimlo, but it's probably Nicola Dimolo and
Nick and little Nick Daimlo from the UK. They're friends of mine. At Menace's Mum and at Bugman140 on the Twitters.
Yeah, they're at Bugman, and yeah, they're both in here. And he said, when are you going to come visit them?
Nick, if anyone don't know Nick and they haven't seen Nick, you should check Nick out on Thingiverse. Nick has some amazing designs. Some recent ones being a vine basket, which just it defies the laws of gravity when it prints. Prints without supports. It prints with 0.4mm nozzles, 0.8mm nozzles, wood, carbon fiber. It's amazing. Twisty vases, where you get two vases and you twist them in together. Similar sort of theory as that one there. Check him out. He's a good dude.
Okay. So let's start up here and let's get with Shane first. Oh
no, Shane's an expert.
Shane from Bruce is on here, and he said, question for the Filament Whisperer. What advice could you give someone who is just starting out and trying different filament types? What steps would you start off with?
The same model every time. The biggest advice I would give someone is, like, I use my maker coin. The reason that I use this is because once you've printed something 50, 60, 100, 200 times, it tells a story. You'll get one that's perfect, and then you'll look at the one that's just printed on the new machine or a new profile or in a new material, and you'll see something that then responds to a setting that you've worked with before. And if you've not worked with it before, then I refer back to where you were before. It's sort of, don't be scared to just change a setting and try it, and just go for it. make a coin is the best way. And again, with materials, the settings that need changing transfer over into materials. So if you get a blob that's usually fixed by coast using PLA, if you get that same blob with PETG, then the answer and the fix is still coast. It will just be to a different level, for instance.
Right. Carl Brown asked from NAC 3D Designs. He said, I know he has a palette, but do you have any dual extrusion printers? And if you do, any tricks for preventing the oozing and bleed over?
No, unfortunately not. The reason being is I've got the palette that 3D Maker Noob sent, which is awesome. I'd like to say about that took my breath away, because for me that were a big step. That's a big thing over there, because for me to give away one of my machines to somebody, which I have done, it's a big thing. And for him to do that, it really melted my heart. I don't even really know how to express still how I feel about that. But I did a lot of research. I wanted to go into dual color a long time before the palette, sort of after the CR10. And I did a lot of research, and all I heard was oozing from nozzles, scratching, been a nightmare. So I got the Formbot, which is IDEX, and that does stuff like that. And honestly, I absolutely love that printer. That's my second favorite printer, is the Formbot. It would be my favorite printer. The only reason it's not is because the MK3 is so good. Yeah, so I've got IDEX, not dual nozzle, unfortunately. And IDEX is so clean. You have the little white buckets at either side, multi-material and so on. It makes life a dream. It really does. And you can tweak, like you can just use the left extruder. You can put PVA supports in the left extruder and just print with it. Dial in your settings for the support as a print, and then put the PLA in the right-hand side, and then use the soluble supports as support structure with dialed-in settings. And it's a lot faster from what I've heard as well, compared to like MMUs and so on. But if you want a two-color system or a two-material system, then in my opinion, nothing beats IDEX. If you want more than two colors, then you've got to look to a palette or a Prusa, MMU2. That's your options, really.
All right, so I'm trying to get Nick's link on Thingiverse, so let me put that up here first real quick. He's got some Christmas tree. I only see there's 33 designs on here. Okay.
Yeah, and if you look at those Christmas trees and those vases, they all print in 4 different pieces and then just twisting together. Wow. So that's like four color tree with single extrusion. And Nick's got a real passion for pushing dual color, triple color models that are printed single extrusion, because Nick has single extrusion printers, and he don't want people to be limited by having these sort of dual extrusion palette machines and so on, because with a little bit of tricky design and a little bit of time, you can make some real crazy things.
All right. And I stopped my chat because it was going by so fast. Do you print stuff for your day job, like practical things that you might use in your fireworks shop or anything like that? Do you do any of that type of printing?
We print some things. We don't massively use it because, again, the family business has been doing fireworks for over 40 years. So the infrastructure to do what we do is already there. So 3D printing a lot of the time can improve certain things, but again, it's a more of a level of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, for instance, candle racks and mortar racks that gives you all fancy fans and this sort of stuff. We already have all pre-built units for this. So if you wanted to get into that sort of thing, then 3D printing is more than applicable for that. Definitely 100%. But again, we have the infrastructure already there, so that the attraction's not really there for me at the moment. But I reckon, again, as things evolve and as things grow, then that may become something that we do. Right.
All right. Well, I did post Bugman's link for Thingiverse. If y'all want to go check out his stuff, I did paste the link into here. Joe Mike Terranella says hello. All right. Fernando Pena has a question, and I know you've heard Fernando's name a couple of times on my channel.
Just a little bit. Fernando!
He says, hey, Tom, what's your take on multi-material? Prusa versus Mosaic and others in the market. What's your preference? Well, I mean, you haven't got your hands on an MMU2 yet. If you have, you haven't been able to say it. So,
no. I've ordered one. It's been ordered, I don't know, 2017 sometime. I got it when I first bought the MK3 when that first came out. And then I waited when I got the option to wait because, well, why not? And I'm not really bothered about waiting because you can see from what I bought a Prusa MK3 and I bought multi-material upgrade number 1. And then obviously since I got the printer delivered, I got the update for number 2 and so on, and you can wait for it. So I waited for it. I got a refund. And what I bought in 2017 wasn't what I'm getting delivered today. What I'm getting delivered today, well, obviously not today, when it comes, is something that's so further on advanced than what I bought, and it's cost me less money. So me as a consumer, as a customer, I've got no issue with that. If I have to wait till another 3 months, I will. I've got Palette Plus. I've got MMU2 coming. Palette Plus, for me, the one that I've got here, is an amazing machine. I've not done enough with it yet to sort of fulfill what it can physically do. I've got a lot to share. I've got a lot coming up. I've been working with the palette with materials that are coming out in a few months' time. So that's why there's not really been much palette sort of tweets and so on, because that's sort of that's empowered what I do. That tool has lit my world on fire. Whether it be down to, like, for instance, take this. You put in 2 colors into the palette. You put in Vertigo Galaxy and you put in Gold Happens, you get your prime block. When it primes, you get a mixture. If you can track that mixture rate, you could batch mix filaments in-house and then extrude them to create custom colors that you could test in-house. And also there's a lot of filament companies that don't actually make filament that will buy, like Protopasta are quite unique. Like when you see them mixing batches in-house, there is a lot that do that, but there's actually, when you look at it on the grand scale, there's not that many that do that. A lot go to like master batch houses where they'll get it pre-made for them. So that's where a lot of the copies come from, like Vertigo Galaxy copies, because certain master batches aren't sort of copyrighted when they should be. So for instance, if you bought a generic blue and a generic orange from master batch house number 1, and then you mix them at a certain rate in-house, you've got a custom color that nobody can copy unless they get the same master batches and then the trial and error for months at a time to try and get that same mix rate. And the palette's a great tool for sort of measuring that sort of thing and seeing things like when you combine Mermaid's Teal and Galactic Empire Purple from Protopasta, you get this lovely, it's like a copper color. It's just a bit darker than Tom's 3DP orange, and it's like a processed copper. So that sort of thing really excites me.
I can tell. I mean, you can tell you get excited about that stuff. That's pretty cool.
But I would say MMU2 versus Palette Plus, Palette Pro. I don't know. I think it'd be pretty tight.
Yeah. All right. So what have you come across in Simplify 3D that you would change if you were able?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. What would I change? I would change the inside of the interface to be updated more, as in the where you're entering the settings and where you're changing the drop-down menus and so on. And I'd like it to be fully controllable in a way that when you have one filament setting, you set it all up across your profile, there's only certain bits you can change when you duplicate that profile for another material. So there's only certain, within one profile, there's only certain amounts of materials that you can have without certain settings crossing over, which I like it not to be like that.
Right. All right. So the next question from Chris Warkaki. When you get your MMU2, what will be your first 5-color print?
First 5-color print. That's a difficult one. What 5-color prints is there?
Right? How many 5-color models are there?
But I know that dude, Chris, he's the Daily Micron on Twitter. Your Daily Micron, should I say. He's a knowledgeable guy where it concerns Prusa. He's on the Prusa Facebook group as well. He helps a lot of people out. So he's a good dude to check out as well. But yeah, I'd probably go with a 5-color wavy ball with, and the most exciting for me about the MMU2 is that it's on the Prusa. Now I have my Prusa will print everything. There is nothing that I found that it won't print yet. So I'm excited to put those filaments because there's no need for splice. So for instance, when I got the palette, I went through every material that I had, every different brand and color, and I run a splice test, and then I made a chart of what splices worked with what. So then I could almost plug and play print with it by using 3 or 4 different filaments. Whereas the MMU2, with it not splicing, I'm excited to be able to combine all these materials with a lot more simplicity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right, so there's lots of questions, Tom. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get to as many as I can. All right, when you get a new profile and a new printer, what are some of the first settings that you go to start tinkering with a profile?
Well, if it's Bowden, let's say it's Bowden, I'll take a CR10 profile and I'll print this coin with slightly reduced retraction. And then from there, I'll judge the outside surface of the thing of the coin for the extrusion ratio to see whether it's under extruding or whether it's over extruding. Once you get that dialed in, once the extrusion's right, then I'll work on everything else. Then I'll work on retraction, coasting, wiping, vertical lift if necessary, all of those sort of things, because until you've got the right amount of plastic, you've got the right amount of extrusion coming out, retraction and coast and so on only mask bigger issues. So once you get a half decent print with an extrusion ratio calculation, then you just go from there, build from there.
Okay, thanks.
Wallace changing his batteries. I can see him.
Yeah, I'm changing my batteries. I got to get to these questions because it's full. I'm telling you, the chat is full of questions. All right, so Master Jerez says, you're fantastic prints and photos, but how do you get the bush to look so good in the pictures?
That bush is my mother-in-law's bush. It's a bamboo bush. It used to be like an arch, and we cut it all down. And the color of the thing, it's not normal. When you come outside in the dark, you can see it. Honestly, that's how bright it is. And yeah, it would just that actually came from the fact that I used to take a lot of pictures in a light box, and I felt sort of controlled by it. I'm sort of regretting having to go back to it soon because obviously with winter coming, I'm going to have to print either all skulls that look great outside in dark. But yeah, I felt held back by the light box. So then now I just go outside and I try and take the background into the print. And I just find it helps. I just find people seem to enjoy it. I seem to like it. And it's challenging as well to try and get that light and move it around. And I take a lot of pictures. Like I might tweet 3 pictures, but there's probably 300 pictures being taken. And then I just go through and I pick the best one and go from there, because that for me is where I lack skill the most, is taking pictures. So the picture itself is the thing that represents the print. So I've got a passion to learn purely because of the passion for the print. I have the passion to sort of work hard with the photography and take the pictures and learn more because I want these things to look as good as they sort of do when you look at them, because a lot of the time it's hard to get across. Like this, for instance, this thing looks blue. It's a weird kind of sparkly aqua. You just can't see it unless you're there and you're looking at it. You just cannot see it. So I want to try and learn to take pictures that sort of show it off naturally.
Right. All right. So next question. Never Let the Machine Win Mike asks, how much do you think changes in ambient room temperature affect your settings?
Well, this is difficult. I think a lot of it is it depends on the climate that you're in to start with. Like my room that I'm in is temperature controlled. I normally run around 22 degrees, but I have run up 35, 38 in the summer. I've got an air conditioning unit, and some days I just completely forget to put the timer on, so that I'll come home at 3, 4 o'clock and it'll be 40 degrees inside where the printers are. And I've never seen that affect the print quality of the print. I've seen it affect the storage of the filament. I got burnt. I had a cupboard that I stored filament in, and it got really warm in here, and essentially the filament sweat in the cupboard, and it were all ruined. But hey ho, you live and learn. I don't do that anymore.
Okay. All right, Shane from Prusa. What would you say to somebody who was thinking about getting into 3D printing? What would be your first that, hey, I'm thinking about getting into 3D printing?
Do it.
Okay.
Simple answer. Simple answer, do it. And then I'd try and point them in the direction that I believe that obviously the new user should go to get the best user experience, because I feel that the biggest thing that holds this community back is that the consumer sometimes doesn't quite understand what they're buying. So that sort of taints their look on their journey into 3D printing. But whereas I think if these people come to Twitter and to Facebook and see things first and get a lot of conversation from people, there's a lot of machines out there that are right for beginners. There's a lot that aren't. They're still great machines, but I won't give one to a bit like a form bot. If someone said to me, I've never owned a printer and I want to buy that form bot, I would say don't do it. I'd say buy 6 CR10s.
Okay. All right. Print It has a really good question, because this is one that I've had a lot. And actually talked to you several times about when I was having issues with this one, with my Kuntry cube over there. How do you recognize the problem with your settings? For example, is it retraction distance or coasting or extra restart distance? Whether to increase the value or decrease the value? I face this problem a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his question. What, you know.
In Simplify 3D, which is, again, that's all I can really talk about, is multiple process. That is the biggest calibration tool that's not used as a calibration tool ever. Imagine you want to test your thin wall settings. You want to know whether you want to do thin wall, single wall extrusion, or you want to do just perimeters only, for instance. You can have a process start every 10 millimeters, and you can have whatever your build volume is. So you can have 20 changes if you want, and you change all these slight distances, and eventually you'll find a set that'll work, and you'll look through those 10, 15 different calculations and you'll see, well, my layer adhesion were great on that one. I got blobs and zits on that one. I got a soft seam on that one. And then you take what you took from this one, this one, this one, and this one, and you bring them together, and then you tweak out of that. But again, the biggest thing that I would say is that you start with a profile that someone's printed with already, because the Simplify 3D, I don't know what their sort of view is on this, but those profiles that you get when you download a Simplify 3D profile within it, that, to me, that's not a profile. That's not, if I downloaded the CR10 profile and put it on there to print, it'd look like death. And I think that with a little bit of certain tweaking and stuff, that user experience for that software can be made more approachable. And I also think that Simplify 3D can partner with printer companies to offer the software within a package where you get updates and you get so on, where you have a lot more that comes with the machine than just a printer in a box, like a Prusa experience. If you use Slick 3R, for instance, when you get a Prusa MK3, you literally get everything in that box to start 3D printing, whether it be, even if it's just a link to get the software that you need that's readily available, that's there. I think there needs to be something that's like Prusa that's, again, a little bit more cost effective, because for someone that's new to 3D printing, a Prusa seems like a very expensive machine. But when you compare the price of that machine with experience across the board, that machine's good value for money. But a newcomer wouldn't know that. They'd see that figure and think, maybe not. And they'd see something like an A-net at 140 quid and think, yeah, I'll have that, that's cheap enough. And that's probably the worst thing that they could do, because that's probably going to alienate them. That's going to push them away themselves in their own mind, because that type of printing, like, don't get me wrong, we all started there. I've had an A-net, you've had an A-net, and they teach you a lot of things. But I don't believe that there's anybody that actually, like me, I wouldn't have bought one again. I'd rather start, if I could have bought an Ender 3 when I bought an A-net, I would have done, and I'd advise people to do that same sort of thing now. I wouldn't ever advise when I'd say, look, spend another 50 quid and get an Ender 3.
Right.
That's after I've said, no, actually, you need this MK3.
All right. So Shane from Prusa has another question. Without naming the brand, what was your nightmare filament trying to dial it in, and how did you overcome it?
The hardest filament to dial in was a cheap brand off Amazon. It was gloopy, it was soft, it was dripping, it was all kind of things, but I wouldn't really class that as something. The biggest thing that I've ever had that sort of I struggle with is like test filaments. Sometimes when they come with these glitters in them, sometimes these glitters are humongous. Like, I've had glitter particles stuck in everything with these filaments, and these can be the difficult things because it's a very fine line. Because, for instance, you get a roll of filament and it's clogging because the tolerance on the glitter's too big. You've still got to test that in another machine that's not that machine, if that makes sense, and also verify that that machine that it did break on also works. So it's before you go back to a filament company and say to them, hey, look, this ain't right, because it's a tall order to say to somebody that makes filament as a hobbyist, in my opinion, to say to them, look, this ain't right. So I normally go to a virtual where I wipe out every single machine. If it's not right, I'll wipe them all out, and then there's no excuse. Then I realise that what I'm saying is right. And they're the hardest ones for me, is the unreleased ones that cause difficulty, because then it obviously slows that whole process down, but it has to be right.
Right. All right, so let me see. Let me try to find it. All right, question for Tom from Practical Printing. This is Chris. How long did it take you to grow out that epic maker beard?
Well, I've just had it trimmed today. You know, it were very. I better not say what it was. It was very frowned upon. Let's say that. Yeah, it were much bigger. I went and got my ears lowered today. But my mum and dad always joke and say, "Oh, you've got some Turkish in you," or something like that, because Turkish people, apparently the hair grow really fast, like, and it's really black, and that's what mine does. Like, now I'll go get an haircut in 2 weeks and I'll have like a full-on afro.
All right, Fernando Pena comes with a good one, and I know everybody wants to know this, and Fernando's good for questions like this. Do you have any plans on making YouTube tutorials to help newbies be like Filament Frenzy?
Yes, 100%, definitely. I think that's where my place is. The issue for me is I've just got to get comfortable there. I've got cameras, I've got everything. I can do it all. I've just got to learn how to record it and how to go through the process of making a video. And when I've started to make just these little videos recently with pictures of prints in them, I go back to like Joe from 3D Maker, who, there's a lot of respect there, man, because there must be a lot of work that goes into like a 15-minute episode that we see. Like, there is a hell of a lot of work that goes into that. Like, the transition from taking pictures to just starting to even just edit those pictures into videos to then upload with descriptions and links to models. And this is a whole nother world. So I want to try and practice just showing off some prints and showing what I can do and assisting people where I can. Then eventually I will go down into some hardcore tutorials, basically about questions like what you've asked me tonight and the people in the chat.
All right, next question. Master Jerez asks, do you still have your first printer, and do you still use it?
My first printer, as you know, is the XYZ Pro. I don't class that as my first printer because it was doomed. In total, in the 2 months that I owned it, I had 14 returns from Amazon with that printer. I mean, like, full on, it were a nightmare. So my first printer is my XYZ Junior. That's what I like to say is my first printer, even though not physically it wasn't. And no, I don't use it anymore. It prints and it works well, but it's not designed to use Simplify 3D. It does use Simplify 3D, but it's not designed to. So everything is slower, everything is churned out, everything is a lot more difficult to do when you've got an MK3, you've got a CR10, you've got an Ender 3, all of those that are just ready just to print. There's no reason, but I keep it, as I say earlier, like when you get a jam and you're there, you know what it's like. You just want to push print. You want to lay that first layer down at 2 a.m. and just go to bed, and you hear that dunk, 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 dunk as you're closing the door, and you think, oh no, you're probably doing cold pulls, cleaning filament, and so on. Then I look down at that printer, that XYZ Junior, and I think it could be a lot worse, because when you have to strip that thing down, it's a pain in the backside, honestly. It really is. And it's got auto level that don't work. It's got no adjustable springs. It's a nightmare. It's got glass that's like Wavy Wednesday inspired. And it's just one of those printers that I think I look at what Knack Designs does. I think I'll flash it. I'll do this. I'll do that. But it's going to take that much time. What's the point? That's how I see it. If there's anyone that wants an XYZ Junior Pro, fully serviced, and I'll put a new piece of glass on it, it's yours.
Right. All right. So, at Filament Frenzy from Chris Freeze, do you have an MK2S polyalchemy profile that you might share?
I have MK2, and when I print polyalchemy, I print it hotter than what it says. I normally print it around 230, 235, with a lot of cooling. The reason being is I get like a lot of layer separation with that filament. It doesn't matter how I print it. It doesn't matter whether I do it vase mode or whether I do it in full prints. If I do, for instance, if I printed this in polyalchemy, I guarantee I'm going to leave about 6 inches of that on the bed. So since going up to a lot more heat, 235, then it prints like a dream. But I only printed like 235, 245 on my Prusa machines. I just, other than the CR10, the CR10's got Captain tubing, so that's all right. And I'm testing out Bondtech direct drive extruder with all E3D genuine parts made by Greg on Twitter. And that thing, my dream printer is a Prusa MK3 that's as big as a CR10. And when I don't really mean as big, it can be 300 by 300 by 300. If Joseph made that printer, I would never buy another printer again. I promise you, especially with MMU2, there would be no need, in my opinion. So having that Bondtech setup on there with a genuine E3D on a CR10, that is at the moment as close as I'm going to get. And do you know something? It's a good place to be. It really is. So Shane from Prusa.
Okay. All right. So next one. This is from Herblinks. Question: what are your thoughts on resin printers? Do you have any thoughts on those? Are you planning on getting you one, or?
Well, that's my good friend Ian. That's Ian Blink on IR Blinks on the Twitter.
Okay.
He's the guy that I run the Facebook group with, and yeah, we're a close bunch. He knows as well as I know. I've only had one experience with a resin printer, and that came from Filament Ravi. They're about 25 minutes away from me. He said to me, "I've got this resin printer. It won't work. Can you fix it?" I said, "Well, I'll have a go." And honestly, it is the worst experience I've ever had in my life. It stank for a start. It stinks. But then when you see 3D Maker Noob on his Moai from Matter Hackers, and you see the quality of the little tiny love arts that he does and the figurines for the games, when I see that, I think, I want one. And honestly, I am considering one of those. But again, it'd only be a Moai. From what I've seen from everybody has said to me, you need a Moai. I get it often. You need a Moai. You need a Moai. You need a Moai.
All righty.
But I try and keep it back a little bit what I get now, because I get a lot of questions. Like, for instance, the palette. The day I tweeted the palette was the day it came, as in that was it. When you saw it there, that was it. It was out of the box. It was on the table and you saw it. And that night, once I'd done set it up and I'd done a picture, a print, and I shared it on Twitter and I shared it on Facebook and so on, I think I got 15, 20 messages on Facebook all at once with different people wanting to know different things about the palette. Like, I had one guy that he'd had it sat on a shelf for 6 months. And just purely because he didn't quite understand it. And I'd already looked inside, just sort of interested in it. I looked inside and I sort of talked him through it just from looking at my machine. And we got in there and he's printing with it and he loves it. And for me, that feeling inside, I didn't even print with mine that night, but he printed with his and it meant so much to him that it meant a lot to me as well. And I didn't even know the dude.
Right. Well, okay. So I'm trying to keep up here.
Has anyone noticed the spinning gnome yet?
Man, everybody, it's been all in here. I haven't said it 100 times, but I promise when you go back and watch this, the chat, there's 100 comments about your gnome.
High five gnome. Yeah, look, he does magic as well. Watch.
Well, oh,
look. Old saw and a half gnome.
Not only that, you know, that's a High Five Blue, and Joel Telling just jumped in here and just said, get on that Prusa build for your 300 by 300.
I know. Well, if anyone can make that happen, it has to be Joel Telling. Come on, Joel Telling.
No, everybody was telling Shane to get on it, and John Mack said, no, don't do it, because then he won't buy another printer.
No, honestly though, but seriously, that I don't say it lightly, and I mean it when I say it. If Prusa built a 300 by 300 by 300 printer, you probably won't see me again.
What we need to get you to do is build a 300 by 300 by 300 hypercube like I have over here. I think you would fall in love with that just as much. It is a lovely printer. All right. Shane said the developers know about the multiple requests for larger build volumes. They know.
Yeah,
he's not going to keep pestering them. So.
Yeah, that's Shane telling us all that it's happening, but he can't tell us. So let's just cross everything. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, no, yeah, and then everybody come back in with the gnome comments again. Yeah, Roto Gnome.
Honestly, I'm proud of that gnome, mate. I got some right abuse for that gnome. Oh, you've done £100 worth of filament in a gnome and all this nonsense. Because obviously people saw the calculation of the 500 gram cost per roll and then calculated that up into the 3 gram roll when actually that wasn't quite right. But yeah, I'm proud of that gnome. That gnome's hollow. It's 1,000% proto gnome in high 5 blue, and it's completely hollow. Boom.
All right. Well, while I let a couple more questions get in here, because I finally made it to, I caught back up with the chat. So, oh wait, Robbie Mack asked a question. Hold on, I got to find the question. Shane. Okay, question for Tom. Do you ever paint models, or is everything raw filament colors?
Just raw filament, no painting. I'd love to learn. I've seen some stuff that Joe did recently with an airbrush that looked legit. It looked real, like he did a lighthouse castle. That was fantastic. I've seen like Chelsea from the Chaos Quartet crew. Some of the stuff that Garrett creates for Chelsea to paint, and then you think, oh my god, and then you see when she paints it, you think, wow. And when you see a video of her painting it, you think even more, wow. But yeah, I'm interested in airbrush, and I'd like to try some of that and try and paint some of the prints. But there's something to be said for raw filament color choice. I think, especially with like a MMU2 coming and Palette Pro and so on like that, there's so many combinations, and it's like take Filamentum in their extra full range. It's like 47 colors, like, and forever expanding. And like Prusa's got, from what we saw on that video, he's got 5 extrusion lines. He's going to be bashing out some filament. I reckon there's going to be some crazy things coming from that guy. So I think everything's sort of going uphill for us. I think everything's getting better. They're getting a lot more range throughout every brand.
Right. All right. So I'm gonna reword Hawk 3D Proto, Ben.
Yeah, Ben's Yorkshire like me.
Yeah, I know. He asked earlier. He asked earlier, and I missed it. It was something about what's the best thing about Yorkshire, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to change his question because I'm gonna force you into this answer. If you could only print one filament from now on, what would it be?
Well, that depends whether you're talking brand material or one specific.
No, one filament. You have one filament in the world that you can get from now on. That's it. Doesn't matter what material, what color, whatever. You tell me what that filament is.
Filamentum Vertigo Galaxy.
The Galaxy, not the gray, the Galaxy.
Galaxy. I don't like the grey. I'm not a fan of the grey, mate. Everyone talks about the grey. The Galaxy, honestly, you see
I thought you loved the gray. Look,
no, yours is spelt wrong.
Oh, that's right. Yours is spelt wrong. That's right.
But yeah, Galaxy is a unique filament, Vertigo Galaxy. It's gorgeous. It really is to see, and especially if you combine that with Gold Happens, the two they go like a peas in a pod. They're great.
Right. So Vertigo Galaxy it is, and I couldn't complain about that. I have yet to run out of mine. I've only had one roll in my entire life, and I have been babying that roll because there's only so much on the roll, and when it runs out, I'm out. So I am babying that roll. All right. Our Blinks has another question. What is your biggest print to date?
Biggest as in biggest volume or longest print?
Biggest volume. I would say biggest volume. The gnome?
The gnome, yeah. Tallest print.
Okay, because the MakerBot looks pretty big too there. And the
what you're not seeing is this watch. There's a lot more of the gnome.
Oh yeah, I guess the perspective got me.
Yeah. The gnome's nearly a meter tall.
Yeah. It's funny because Alien 3D, while you were answering the number one filament that you would get, he comments, he says, as Tom looks up at his million rolls of filament.
I actually did look to see how many rolls of Galaxy I had.
Oh yeah. All right, so guys, I'm going to take this time to say it right now. If you're not subscribed, please click the button, ring the bell to get notifications. We do one of these interviews a week, not just with Tom, with other folks in the 3D printing community. But right now we've got Tom Filament Frenzy for another, I'm going to say 5 minutes, because we'll be at our hour and 15 mark. And that's pretty much where we need to go.
Yeah, you've had some stars on this show, like Joel Telling, Broken Nerd, Uncle Jesse. It was great for me to watch those guys that I follow from a different side and see people like Broken Nerd explaining what his name means, to see Uncle Jesse talking. I missed his stream, unfortunately. I didn't get to answer any questions, but I watched it back, and they're all good dudes. And my biggest thing is I urge everybody, just be involved, get involved. If you've got an issue, if I can help you, message me, I'll help you.
Hey, and I will tell you this, Tom, we're doing good tonight because we've got 2 thumbs downs on our interview tonight already.
Oh, we know who that is then.
Joel does have a question. He said, hey, Tom, can you make it to New York Maker Faire?
When is it?
When is it, guys? I don't know. Anybody can tell me.
For me, it's difficult. Like TCT coming up in the UK is my sort of last sort of gig before I go into sort of firework mode. And obviously it's crazy for 3 or 4 months. It's crazy. It's absolutely mental. That's when I print really big things.
Yeah, that's in less than 30 days.
No, unfortunately, that's not happening. Next year, I'd love to. I want to go to America. I want to meet all the American YouTubers, the people that I interact with daily. I want to meet these guys, and I want to go to all these Murphs, Earths, Turfs. I want to go to all of them, and I want to see you guys. I want to interact. And
well, if you have to go to one right now, and don't get me wrong, I loved Earth. But if you have to go to one 3D printing conference, Murph is it, man. In little nowhere, Indiana, that thing was off the chain.
Goshen, Indiana.
Goshen, Indiana. That's absolutely right. Shane from Prusa has a statement that says, Walter, thank you for arranging the interview and getting Tom on an interview. And for Tom, thank you for your time and advice.
Big shout out to Shane. I think it's a difficult place for him, with like Twitter and social media, because if you think he's Shane from Prusa and he's always there to help, and it must be hard for that guy to daily job be helping and then socially be helping. And he helped me fix my MK3 because, like I say, originally when I first got mine, it wasn't the greatest experience in the world, and Shane helped me fix a few issues out. And that was before I even knew to interact with Shane. That was just through seeing Shane's Boba Fett picture on Prusa chat and then making that link months later. And that dude is a good dude. If you don't follow that dude on Twitter, honestly, you're missing out. You should follow that dude.
Shane said, stop, I'm blushing. But all right, guys, if y'all don't have any more questions, this is Tom Jackson, Filament Frenzy, the Filament Whisperer, the god of FDM layers. And he's done a great interview. I mean, Tom, I can't thank you enough for being on here. I know it took a while for you to...
I feel honored to be beside some of those names that have been on this show, and just to be beside you. I feel really proud of this, and that there's people watching and talking, and it really means a lot. I'm here for every one of you, and for me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, no, they're all, I mean, everybody here's, it's great to put a face with the name. It's great to put a face with the prints. It's great to finally see you and hear you talk and all that stuff. Oh, Printit's got one more question. And we'll probably end this with this question. How many empty spools have you gotten rid of?
Oh, more than I've got.
More than you've got.
About, I threw over 300 away a few months ago.
Did you say 300?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord of mercy.
I was saving them to all be recycled. I upcycled a lot of them in certain areas, and then they just sat around in a spare space that we have. But I had to make room for filament.
All right, so I'm going to say this because Martin did bring it up, and I was actually just thinking about it. Next time on Friday Hangout, the EU version, that is next Friday. Not this Friday, but next Friday.
It's this Friday, isn't it?
This Friday?
Possibly.
Okay, this coming Friday.
Maybe. Martin's the boss.
Martin's in here. He'll tell us in a second.
He'll come. Martin's great. He's the best.
But it is the EU version this Friday, 1900 Greenwich Mean Time 0. So there you go. I'm going to say this. Thank you all for being here, and I appreciate all the questions. I hope I got everybody's questions. My wife was trying to keep me straight through the door, making sure I didn't miss any, but I went slow. I paused the chat just so I could get them done. Tom, any advice that you can give them, and I know they can find you at Filament Frenzy on Twitter. I've got that link in the description below. Is there any advice you want to give them going away to say, hey, this is my advice to you?
My advice to everyone would be just to get involved. Don't be scared to share. It'll help you learn. It'll help you grow. And always remember where you came from. Always remember the days when you were messaging Joe telling and asking him what a zipped file was. Just remember those days, because if you don't remember those days when trying to help people, sometimes you can get frustrated with people and it can be a difficult thing. So always remember that we all started somewhere, and then when you see those new questions, jump in and help out and do what should have been done for you, if that makes sense. And together we can achieve great things. If you look like 3D printing, nobody that I really interact with in my day life really knows much about 3D printing, and that just shows you that it's not as big as what we think in our community, because we live it every day, but other people don't. So if we want to keep it going and getting bigger and so on, I'd advise that we all sort of support and help each other, whether it be companies that are not abiding by GPL open source, whether it be slicing companies, whether it be anything. We all need to back each other up, and together we'll share, learn and grow as makers. That's I think we have a powerful voice. I think with the Creality GPL previously, when sort of everyone made videos and we all spoke up, let's not talk about the action and where it went and so on and so forth. But if you look, the community standing together made a difference, maybe a temporary difference. It still made a difference and it still worked. And that's a powerful thing that every one of us has a responsibility to take part in, and we can all achieve great things and have fun while doing it.
Okay. All right, Tom, I'm gonna lock it on me now and say goodbye to everybody, and I'll be back to you in just a minute. Okay, buddy?
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Much love.
All right, guys, that was Tom Jackson, Filament Frenzy, and that was a fantastic interview. I thank everybody for all of their questions, for all of the interaction with Tom, and making it comfortable and not too overwhelming for his first YouTube, interview. And hopefully there'll be many more. I do want to say to those guys that follow me and subscribe, there will not be a live stream tomorrow.
Boo.
Nor over the weekend. It is Labor Day weekend, so the next time I see you will be Monday evening. No Saturday morning coffee. No fun in the country basement on Sunday. Monday evening will be the first night back from now. So thank you for watching, and guys, y'all take care of each other, just as we said. Thank you, and we'll see you Monday.